welcome to episode 419 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Weekly Podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and listeners, usually we're very positive on this podcast. This is a celebration and appreciation of our favorite RPGs, or trying classic RPGs for the first time. This episode is not about that, but before I explain further, let's introduce the rest of the panel, starting with Manuel.
Hi.
And Audra Bowling.
Hello, hello.
And Kyle Cantelon.
Hello, fans.
Kyle, Audra, Tin, whenever you get a new game or are anticipating a game, you want to like it. Like, no one is here to have a bad time. Like, we play games because we're interested in them. We generally like that kind of experience. We think we will like them, but regrettably, that's not always the case. All of us have tried RPGs with a sincere wish and will to really like them, but it just doesn't happen. And maybe it's an RPG you were anticipating heavily. Maybe it's a classic that a lot of other people like, so you don't understand why you're not liking it. Basically, this is an episode about missed connections. It's a show and tell episode where we're each going to bring a couple games to the table in which they were RPGs that we wanted to really like when we first attempted them, but it just didn't happen or couldn't happen, and we'll work out our feelings a little bit. So we're all feeling pretty good?
Yep.
Yep.
Feeling hard to love.
Right. So does anyone want clarification or additional explanation? Because, I mean, there isn't any rule other than follow your heart. But if anyone's unsure of the format or not sure how to proceed exactly, we can talk that out a bit first. How are we feeling?
So we're gonna have to just explain the reasons, or give out our thoughts regarding towards these games, right? But do we also example after you explain why you didn't like Xenogears, are we gonna try to are we gonna all try to explore in that, or
we don't have to go too much on the after. I think we should try to at least talk about our first experiences with these games, and then anyone else that's played them can talk about whether they like or dislike them, but without going too deep into it. But mostly it's just an exercise of talking about games we wanted to like, but for some reason didn't or couldn't.
Okay.
And I mean, I could have just made this about some games I outwardly dislike. like this could have been just Beyond the Beyond and Lagoon for the SNES, and but I think those games are just not good, and that frankly makes it sort of not interesting. It's like I rented these games and didn't like them one bit, and I still don't like them one bit. These are my two selections are games that are either I really wanted to like them going in, or in the case of one that you already mentioned, in a really popular game that I don't care for overall. So there's no right or wrong approach, but the idea is you wanted to like these games, but for some reason couldn't. And but we're not going to go too deeply into everyone reacting to everyone else's game.
All right.
So would anyone like to go first, or should I just plow ahead with Xenogears? Because
take it over. Go.
All right, Xenogears. Written by Masato Kato. It was an original design pitch for Final Fantasy VII that was rejected, so it became its own spin-off game a year later instead. I forget the guy's name, but is the guy who designed the mechs in Final Fantasy VI and most of the story and designs of Xenogears went on to found Monolith Soft and make Xenosaga and Baten Kaitos and Xenoblade and many other games. But Xenogears is a bit of a niche popularity game on the PlayStation 1, at least at first. You only really played Xenogears if you were into PS1 RPGs already. But then as, the online community for RPGs grew and grew, a lot of people discovered that they weren't the only person that loved Xenogears. It was it's a Japanese RPG from Square in their heyday, with a lot of sci-fi ideas, heavily anime inspired. There's probably someone's written a PhD thesis on why it's a lot like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Mm-hmm. But it's a game that has martial arts and mecha and some deep characters and some high drama and some really suffering and tormented main characters. But I remember when we did a podcast on Xenogears a long time ago. It was, I want to say 2016 or 2017. I deliberately passed because I just didn't want to play it again. I played this game many years ago in the early 2000s, probably 2001 or 2002, when I was just out there trying to play all the PlayStation 1 games. I think I have a greatest hits copy. I'm not 100% sure about that. And I remember I was really enjoying it. I liked the combat, especially at the beginning, but in the latter half of the game, I was just some of the like the differences between the mecha combat and the on foot combat were just too stark to me. Like I to which point I was dreading the parts where you get into a giant robot. And um the story moments, while dramatic and pretty interesting, just really felt either like undercooked. And then in the latter third of the game or so, where it stops being a fully blown RPG and has characters sitting in chairs explaining to you the plot while you in between doing a short dungeon, and characters from the like first 5 hours come back as monsters. It gets basically Xenogears. You can find the exact point where the team ran out of budget and stopped making an RPG and made a weird visual novel. And then the final two dungeons are these long convoluted tunnels where you're only in mecha and never out of mecha. And I just, by the end of Xenogears over 20 years ago, I was just really suffering and wanted to never play it ever again. So like it's a game that I think starts out great, and I wanted to like it because so many people that were in my online communities and some of my friends that played RPGs also love it. But by the end, I'm like this game is unfinished, and the mecha combat is not as fun as the on foot stuff, and I just don't want to play it anymore. So when we did the PlayStation Best of PlayStation 1 RPGs episode a couple years ago, I was the only person on the panel that didn't have Xenogears in their top 10, because I don't think it's a very finished game, and I don't think it's a top 10 PS1 RPG. That's all.
Well, that's all fair actually.
Yeah.
I one of also my like personally for me, I'm usually the type who enjoys story over gameplay. So I guess that's the reason why Xenogears still is still up there for me. But I'm also the type of um player who just can't stand unfinished games or buggy games. So
I really loved the first half of Xenogears, but
yeah,
the second half was, it felt unfinished in a negative way, at least to me. I mean, some people will say that no, actually, the fact that they just tell you the stories in cutscenes without any action present is a good thing, and it's like, no, nah, slow your roll there a bit, chief. But the I just was really disenchanted by the second half of the game, and for me, I think we even did a story versus gameplay episode a couple of years ago. I think that I love RPGs because it's the story and gameplay and like both helping the other. And if I had to choose which I think is more important, I usually would say gameplay ahead of story. So maybe it's I felt betrayed by the gameplay by the end of Xenogears.
Yasuyuki, is it Han? Is that the guy you're thinking of? You mentioned a guy about from Monolith Soft.
No, I was thinking of Tetsuya Takahashi.
Okay, there
I
you
knew it was something Takahashi. I couldn't remember his last name, but he was again, he was an artist and designer on Final Fantasy 5 and 6.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, him and Masato Kato pitched the Xenogears story as a potential Final Fantasy 7. They were rejected. They made Xenogears instead. They were frustrated by the budget issues with Xenogears, so they founded Monolith Soft a little bit later.
It's almost like foreshadowing to everything that games were going to become. Like, it's brilliant in so many parts. We mentioned that the main creative directors get so frustrated by the lack of budget that they go on to create something that is now renowned as it's sort of among the top of the industry. And I wonder if that's just sort of like Xenogears' legacy, right? Like, it's on its own, it has this great first 2/3, and then the last third really sounds like it depends on what your flavor of story and gameplay is. But all the things that are created upon like the corpse of Xenogears is sort of like pretty impressive, honestly.
I can see that. I enjoy Xenogears to an extent. I like some of the moments, story beats and moments in particular. But yeah, that the last third is it totally shifts the tone and the feel of the game. And
I would like the game a lot more if it was actually finished. And Kyle's using a lot of grand language for how influential Xenogears is. I have some doubts about that. I mean, I think that RPGs going forward after that resembled Final Fantasy VII a lot more than Xenogears. But Xenogears' storytelling and its and like the psychological struggles of its protagonists were not it wasn't the first time they had something like that in RPGs, but it's like an exemplar of what I would call like an anime RPG of the era, and I'm sure all the 1998 edgelords really loved it, although I played it a couple of years later.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to connect like the creators themselves and then what Monolith Soft has done now, with the Chronicle series and that type of thing.
well,
But
I
yeah,
can
point
see
taken.
that.
I guess so. I mean, I don't think they were allowed to use some Xenogears specific language in Xenosaga, but they have a lot of stuff ripped straight from Xenogears in that game. Right down from right down to the Uzuki family, I think. Is it Uzuki or Yuzuki? That's not important. But anyway, yeah, I tried replaying Xenogears once many years ago, before I joined RPG Fan, but and I was sort of enjoying the very first opening hours of it, but then I remembered what would happen later, and I just stopped playing. So I'm not sure if I'll ever revisit it properly, but it's not happening anytime soon. It's just I struggled to connect with it, but we don't need to dwell on that anymore. Does anyone else want to talk about a beloved popular game or a less beloved, less popular game that you wish you liked more than you did?
Actually, your relationship with Xenogears, especially like the last time you tried it, and then just decided that you don't want to do the rest of it. That sounds like my relationship with Legend of Dragoon. It's built as this Final Fantasy clone. It's does it does some good things. Like it's a game I should love. That's how I think about it. Like there's these suit changing elements where every character is like their own Power Ranger. There's some really solid like story twists. Technically, only one of which I've actually seen. It's JRPG as hell, but it's just so slow. Like it just takes forever to get going. To the point where I equate it to your experience, Sollosi, with Xenogears, but I guess it's almost the opposite. Where I know now, based on the game being as old as it is, that Disc 3 and Disc 4 are awesome. Like Neil reviewed it back in 2012 and says that 3 and 4 are just so worth it, and 1 and 2 are a slog. And I don't know if I have the time or the patience for slog anymore. If I'm going back to an older game, like I really got to be sold on it.
Okay, I'm struggling to remember exactly where this happens, but I think my least favorite part of the game is in Disc 3.
Interesting.
I'm specifically thinking of one boss battle that's terrible. But Kyle, I'm with you for most of this because if anything, my experience with Legend of Dragoon is a little bit more positive than Xenogears because I played Legend of Dragoon when I was 14 and I loved it. I thought it was so cool. I mean, transforming main characters and everything. But also when I was 14, I had incredible amounts of free time, and I was probably more tolerant of a grind or a slog. But when I tried to replay Legend of Dragoon some years ago, I don't remember when, probably around 2010, so about 10 years later, I could not believe how slow and dragging it was. Every because there's so many timed hits involved and so many long animations in
Oh, the
combat.
worst.
Like every
Yeah.
random battle is like you're playing about a terrible 4-minute Guitar Hero song, and and random battles are extremely frequent. It's a very high random encounter rate, and and also if you're trying to play on a modern TV, and because I was using component cables on a PS2, like the sometimes the timing is like a fraction of a second off that makes the timed hits seem to work less well. So it's probably not great to play on a modern television. Maybe there's workarounds for that nowadays, but I remember thinking like the timing was worse when I played it 10 years later. That was a game that I did really like in around 2000. tried playing it a long time later and couldn't believe that I ever liked it. So my feelings on Legend of Dragoon are similar to yours, Kyle. But I should mention there. You alluded to it. There's like three wild plot twists in a row in the around the 3/4 mark or so, and like two of them you sort of can see coming, but one of them is so out of left field that it's unbelievable. And I remember thinking that was so cool 24 years ago, but now I'm just glad I know how it goes, so I don't have to play it anymore.
There's a major character death that kind of caught me off guard, especially when I was in my late teens, in like the second disc, I think, or maybe disc one.
If it's the one that I think you're thinking of, where you get a replacement character.
Yes, you do.
That is
yeah.
that's the very end of disc one. Yeah.
Okay, so like that one I've experienced, and then there's some stuff that happens in disc two, and I've never been to disc three as far as I know. I've never been to disc three. I just didn't make it. But yeah, I mean that's why part of it is I really should love this game. I read about it. I went back and saw Neil's review. I like did the whole plot overview on Wikipedia, and I'm reading this and I'm thinking like this is a JRPG ass JRPG, and I can't get there.
I just wish there was a way to skip most of the action in the battle system. Like
well, you can automate the hits. Like there's a setting,
but it deals like half damage or something.
Right, which is I'm not about that life, I think you and I, Sollosi, are both people that like cranked up the job points for the FF5 remake.
Oh yeah,
because I want to see all the jobs. Like if they do a Legend of Dragoon remake and just automate that stuff, I'm potentially interested.
I think the best
3 times speed.
I think the best Legend of Dragoon experience is not playing it, but watching a bunch of the sound clips and then just like making fun of the sound clips with some of your friends. But not actually play the game. That's the best way to experience Legend of Dragoon. Make fun of the voice work because it is hilarious.
It's
Hot
kind
take
of
with Legend of
my
Dragoon.
experience with the game.
Yeah,
I
like,
just watched my brother play it.
Is it a hot take to say that we should have just put them in their like Power Ranger suits and have them narrate the game, like the reverse of Xenogears, and then get to the good stuff?
I don't know. I think maybe if they like cut the random encounter rate by 90%, or at least or at least let you or at least let you put it on a slider like Bravely Default or something,
Yeah.
and then like if there were way less random encounters, but you got a commensurate more amount of experience, maybe I would like it more. But the fact that like you would just be going in a cave from one town to the next, and it would take hours because everything goes so slowly, and it's oh man, it's like you're playing Final Fantasy VIII, but every random battle you have to summon 2 GFs is what it feels like.
You're not wrong.
But again, I liked that game a lot when I was 14, but I just don't think I can enjoy it anymore as an adult.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the same with it.
The soundtrack's all right though.
Yeah, had an awesome main theme.
Yeah, I do like also the art style, so that's I think one of the charm of it, I'd say. But yeah, just watching all the random encounter before back then, I just enjoyed watching.
Oh, my favorite dumb thing about Legend of Dragoon, other than the voice work, is that any attack in the game can miss. So you'll have incredibly overwrought animations. Like one, I remember there was a boss that summons a wall behind your character, puts your character in a clamp or something, and pins you to the wall, then beats the crap out of you, punches you through the wall shatters behind you, but then Dart or whoever stands up, and then it says miss.
Are you serious?
I remember I saw that in person when I was attempting to replay the game, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
So close.
So yeah, it's a weird janky game. I mean, of course, I wish I loved a game that was about transforming superhero or like Dragon Knights, but alas, yeah, you and I are mostly together on that one, Kyle. But maybe the other game on your list will be less in accord.
Oh God, tell me about it.
But before we get there, Audra or Tin, would either of you like to go next in show and tell that's hard to love?
Oh, I can go next. I could probably talk about Valkyrie Elysium. So this is like, well, I'm not sure. well, not really the third game in the franchise, since there's that another SRPG one that came out in the DS, if I recall correctly. But that one I haven't played. Yeah, I have really good memories when it comes to the Valkyrie series or Valkyrie profile series, and I really enjoyed VP1 with Lenneth and also VP2 with Samaria. Although the fact that the difference is that the new one was um, developed by Soleil. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it.
It's Soleil, which is the
Oh,
French
there's
word for
Soleil.
the French word for sun.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I'm not really familiar with this dev as well, but I was super looking forward for this when it was announced, because it has been a long time since this series um uh like it's been a long time since we had a new game from this franchise. And yeah, I was super excited, and I was um as well as the visuals that they've shown and the trailers. I was pretty satisfied with them, with how they look and stuff. And I was also one of those who was just really anticipating for it to come out. And sadly, it disappointed me really bad. So it was one of those games that I still tried my best to finish it, but um, part of me was also like um, just trying to finish it, because just for the sake of actually finishing it, because I'm already halfway there. But it felt like um overall, like the entire game felt monotonous to me, and it also felt really like a low budget game that I don't know why they still decided to push through with this. I know it's probably one of those experimental thing that Square was doing, but the franchise ended a long time ago, and I feel like this is the game that just would completely end the series, and I don't think I'm seeing any Valkyrie profile game anytime soon again. So
Oh,
um my biggest problem with the game as well is that they did try to attempt on going full action this time, and I'd say it's also one of the things that I enjoyed in the game. But the problem was that it the action gameplay never evolved. Like at and in the beginning, they give you all the skills, and you're left with just a few things to use. And even after obtaining a lot of new divine arts or inherior to summon, it it still felt the same all throughout. And that was really also the most disappointing part of the game, apart from the story. And e- yeah, when I also said earlier that it felt monotonous, it's like every level or every place in the game is just like a copy paste thing. Like they would just multiply the buildings, multiply the barrels or boxes, whatever is in there, and that's pretty much the entire level. And there it I know they were trying to grasp the world that's ending and all that, but it was so barren that each location, you just really want to try to get it over with. So that's pretty much what I felt with this game, and I'm really sad that this is how it turned out. But uh that was just um everything that I thought of this game. But I've heard there are some people who enjoyed the combat, but yeah, it just didn't click for me.
Oh man, I haven't heard of anybody enjoying the combat. I mean, I remember there was excitement about this when it came out in I guess 2022,
Hmm.
and but then after it came out, like you didn't hear a whisper about it.
Yeah.
They're people were like oh I don't want to talk about it because Valkyrie Profile is a very loved game. That's the only game in the series that I've played, and it
Hmm.
is it is unique and cool and not like a whole lot else. But for Silmeria to be mostly liked and for this one to be so disappointing is really sad, because I know a bunch of Valkyrie Profile fans that would love nothing more than for this series to make a big comeback. I mean, Hilary
Mm-hmm.
Andriff and Steph Sabidlo are two of them, where it's Valkyrie Profile's one of their favorite games. But I remember this coming out and then just not hearing anything afterwards.
Yeah.
And when you put this on your list, Tin, before we recorded, I had to think about it. It's like, is this the Valkyrie Profile thing, or is this the Valkyria Chronicles thing? Because
Great
because
call.
because a couple years before then there was a disappointing Valkyria Chronicles sequel, which I don't even remember what it was called, but like again, this really just this game really came and went 2 years ago in a way that has to be so disappointing to big fans of Valkyrie Profile. And I was while you mentioned it, that Soleil was the developer. I hadn't heard of Soleil. It looks like that Soleil is a company that used to be Valhalla Game Studios, but then was bought by Tencent, which is one of the three or four biggest tech companies in China. And then
Mhm.
Tencent combined a bunch of their acquisitions into Soleil. So Soleil's only been around for 3 or 4 years, but they made this thing, and I can't say very many people were impressed, because again, I'm probably not as in tune with the other Valkyrie fans as you are, but I remember this game coming out and then knowing nobody wanting to talk about it at all.
Yeah. I remember when I got this as well and I played it, and there were like a lot of other people who was also excited with me, but I haven't heard from them as well. I'm not sure they even finished the game. I'm probably the only one who finished it. And even despite finishing it before joining this podcast, I had to recall like what happened in there again.
It's like I need to go on Wikipedia and refresh my memory, because I really did not want to remember this game.
Yeah, it was so forgettable. So yeah, it was. That's the reason why I brought this up in this episode, because it's the franchise which I really like um back then, and I really tried my best to um look at this game in rose colored glasses, but it's just those glasses just broke. So
Oof.
Yeah, I
Des
can.
gave it an 80. I'd be interested to hear his take on it now, if it's changed at all.
well, yeah, it's fair if like that's how he thought about the game, but yeah, it's also understandable why I haven't heard from other people regarding this game. So
Yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if that means anything or something or nothing. I just found it interesting.
I find it interesting that anybody likes Legend of Dragoon later than 2002, but I mean, we gave it a favorable review in 2012, so wonders never cease.
mhm.
Yeah, like ratings is not going to help my. Well, I don't have an argument. I know what I'm in for later. But it just seems to speak to sort of that sort of tragic feeling um, that Tin has. I wonder, right? Like it seems like there's a game in there somewhere, but there's just for whatever reason, Tin, you just said like you couldn't get there. You really wanted to love it.
Yeah, it was definitely a finished game, but it also felt like an unfinished game because a lot of the things in there was just like repetitive as well. So
Tin, I think in the second half of this podcast, you'll talk about a game that's somewhat unfinished, but
yeah,
we're not quite there yet.
yeah,
And I'm sorry for being coy, listeners, but the four of us are all looking at the same Google Doc that that maybe you can't necessarily see right now, but we'll get there. Please show some patience. But Audra, I think you've been patient, because the two that you gave on your list here are games that you might be patiently waiting for a sequel to this day, and it's just not happening.
Oh
But
yeah.
I mean, which one do you want to talk about first? Because I have a feeling that your vibe on both these is going to be similar, because it's a series you love that had maybe a disappointing late act. Is that am I guessing correctly?
You are correct. And actually, I think I'll go with Lunar Dragon Song first because I actually kind of have the same sentiment as Tin did with Valkyria Valkyrie Elysium when it.
I mean, Lunar Dragon Song is so widely disliked
Yeah.
by the RPG fan writers at the time. RPG fan, which used to be lunarnet.com. Or yeah, let's talk about one of the more disappointing sequels in my memory.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love the original Lunar games, the first two Lunar games, and I especially the PS1 working designs script translations. I just found them to be hilarious and stand out. And I was really surprised when I saw in a store the copy of Lunar Dragon Song brand new for $5, and I was like, "Oh, that's a steal!" And I just got a DS, and I'll try it out.
Oh no!
And I feel like that was a waste of money the second I put it in.
Oh
It's
no! Even for
just-
$5.
Yeah, it's just not a very good game. I had to look it up after when I wrote about it here, decided to talk about it, and it took me forever to remember that it was a prequel to the first two Lunar games, because
Right.
it's just the storyline is so just to me forgettable and non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, I only played the first several hours of it. There's more conflict between humans and beastmen
Mhm.
in Dragon Song, when in Lunar 1 and 2, like, people with bestial features, like even like like Mel and Jessica, even like are living alongside humans, like it's no big deal. So it does hint at a time before the more modern Lunar games, where there was more like intertribal conflict. But this is honestly me being more diplomatic than Lunar Dragon Song deserves to get, because that game is not good. Like I got a copy, and then I gave it away to a friend, because I valued that centimeter of shelf space on my DS shelf more than any experience I would have playing the game.
Oh, what did that friend do?
I don't know.
Oh my god! Just
I'm not even sure that friend played. That was a person that was just more interested in collecting than really wanting a sequel to Lunar. Because I think I remember when I gave it, he's like, "Man, Lunar 1 and 2 are so good, and this game just isn't. Do you want it?" And he said, "Sure." It was I don't think I was betraying him necessarily, but yeah, I'm 100% with you, Audra. Lunar 1 and 2 are excellent, and Lunar Dragon Song is the opposite.
I don't even know what they were thinking with like the battle system having two modes to it, and it was just uh, so weird. It's a very poorly implemented game, I think, with a lot of the gameplay features and just the story. I really have a hard time even remembering. I think one of the characters is named Lucha, which I thought was interesting because in Eternal Blue the character is named Lucia, and that's about it.
Well, Lucia was on the blue planet sealed for 1,000 years, so maybe it's the same Lucia. I don't know.
sounds like a shit
Again,
there.
I really think that we should not analyze Lunar Dragon Song more than we already have.
I honestly had
That's
never
fair.
heard of it, and I was just joking with Audra off air that like I had to look up both the games that she was suggesting. I went to find a review from Patrick in 2000 on our website.
And Patrick definitely loves the older Lunar games.
I got to I didn't get past the paragraph that says some games are bad because of what they are, and other games are bad because of what they lack. Lunar Dragon Song is both. I just like closed the window and I just kept going.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate end to the Lunar series, I think.
It sounds like it
just
deserves
kind
so
of-
much better.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, like
I
I mean,
would love-
I haven't played Magic School or any of the remakes, but the PS1 versions of Lunar 1 and 2 are awesome. And some people even think that the Sega CD versions are better, but I never really had access to those. So like, these are two 90s RPGs that are very, very loved, and for them to get this wet fart of a sequel it really is sad.
Yeah.
And I have a theory about this. And if anything, it makes the situation even sadder. I'm sorry, but one of the co-founders of Game Arts was Takashi Miyagi, and his older brother Yoichi Miyagi is still the CEO of Game Arts. And Takashi Miyagi was a writer and designer on Lunar 1 and 2, and it was the director and like executive director of Grandia 1 and 2. So he's one of the true architects of Lunar and Grandia. But he passed away from cancer at the age of 45, quite young, and like early in the development of Grandia 3. Like I don't think he's even credited on Grandia 3. But I think that's sort of why Lunar and Grandia died, was because one of the lead people behind them passed away, and they didn't want to make those games anymore. So
That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
but again, I don't know this for sure. There is no oral history on Game Arts or Lunar that you can check to verify this. But I mean, Lunar Dragon Song definitely didn't have either of the Miyagi brothers working on it, and I'm trying to figure out. I don't think I recognize anyone here. Was it even developed by Game Arts? Here it is. Yeah, it's this ain't it. And but my theory is that like Game Arts wasn't really interested in making more Lunar or Grandia games after Takashi Miyagi passed away.
It's just kind of sad that it has that name associated with it, and it's one of the first DS RPGs, I think, that was even created.
It's 2005, very, very early DS at least. Yeah.
So it's like, why couldn't you have been better?
What I heard about this, the gameplay is that, which I find really weird, was that when you run, you lose HP.
You lose health. Yes.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry, what?
Minus life. Don't run.
So that's like Gauntlet Legends for the N64, except like it's not a port of an arcade game that's trying to get you to spend quarters more quickly.
Yeah, and you have to choose between items or experience points during combat.
You can't have both.
Nope.
Wow, they're like going out of their way to have for players to have less fun.
Those are baffling design decisions.
Yes.
Wow, man, I didn't remember that. I didn't remember either of those. But again, I tried to play this thing. It was, I don't know, it was probably 2006 or 2007, right when I got a DS. I remember it being bad, and it turns out it's worse than I remember. But anyway, I would still like to talk about Nintendo handhelds moving forward here, but let's talk about a game that I think plays considerably better than Lunar Dragon Song, but I found personally very disappointing for other reasons. I want to talk about Fire Emblem for a little bit, because I don't think we've talked about Fire Emblem on this podcast very much at all. Maybe as one-off topics on other episodes. Like I think when this game came out, I actually was on an episode of Random Encounter about it, but we'll get to it in a second. I love the Fire Emblem GBA games. I loved Fire Emblem 7 and Sacred Stones so much that I went and found translations of Fire Emblem 4, 5, and 6 and attempted all three of them, only really finishing 4 and 6. And I was just getting super deep into the series. As soon as I got a GameCube, I sought out Path of Radiance, and that game was so good it might be my number one favorite in the series. But then I think I don't remember the order of events exactly here, but I never played Radiant Dawn for the Wii because I was really busy with college at the time, and then it became a very hard game to find. So I've never played Radiant Dawn. And Shadow Dragon, the DS Fire Emblem game, I found pretty disappointing. But we're not quite here to talk about Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. But we'll get there soon, I promise. So I just loved Fire Emblem in the middle of the 2000s. Then I fell off a little bit, and then Fire Emblem Awakening happened for the 3DS. And I know that game has some eye rolling and some cringe and some of the stuff it does with its sort of story, but I love that game. I like when Fire Emblem Awakening came out, it had a lot of positive buzz. I got it when I first got a 3DS, maybe I don't know, like a year, a bit less than a year after it came out. So I was already anticipating it. I thought it was awesome. I had a blast. I grinded like crazy for it. I had a bunch of really powerful children characters, because there's a parents and children system is kind of really fun in Awakening, where there's a future apocalypse, and whenever two of your characters on your army fall in love, then their child from the future goes back in time to try and save the future. And so depending on how you pair up your characters, their children will have different stats and different abilities. So it's again, that's a little bit silly, but very fun in the moment, and back in 2013, 2014, I promise. So I went from loving Fire Emblem to then falling off Fire Emblem a little bit, but then loving it more than ever on the 3DS. I love the 3DS. I'm excited for the next Fire Emblem game. Then Fire Emblem Fates happened. And oh boy, Fire Emblem Fates is such a confusing setup that I almost dread explaining it. It was done in it was released almost Pokemon style with two versions coming out: Fire Emblem Fates Birthright and Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, where basically, do you want to play as the good kingdom that you're trying to protect, or the evil kingdom trying to conquer the good kingdom? Because you're the prince or the princess, because you can choose your character to be male or female. You're your royalty in the good kingdom, but you were adopted by the evil kingdom as a baby. And if you play Fire Emblem Conquest, then you side with your adoptive parents. And if you play Fire Emblem Birthright, then you side with your biological parents, and do that half of the story. So basically, it's two halves of the story, but Conquest and Birthright are very, very different. Birthright's more like Awakening, where you can go back and build your base more elaborately and grind for experience and things, while Conquest is more like a Path of Radiance or Fire Emblem 7, where there's only forward momentum. The base building stuff sort of only just in between missions. There's less grinding, but both games have like pretty interesting maps and pretty involved class systems. There's a lot going on. But then they did two things in Fire Emblem Fates that made the game just unlovable for me, because I played this for quite a bit. I played like probably 15 or 20 hours before I gave up. For some reason, there's a third path that was DLC only. So you had to, if you wanted to play this game, if you wanted to play the game completely, you had to either get the 2-pack that came with all 3 versions in one cartridge, which is how I played it, or you can get the 2 cartridges separately and download the third path on one of them. And the 3DS shop is shut down now. So it was a weird, like, Pokemon style multi-versioning format that nobody liked and felt like it was entirely money driven in a bad way. Because I mean, video games are businesses. Sometimes I won't begrudge video games for trying to make money, but this felt gross. And the other thing was, the tone of the game was so insane. Like it was kind of like Fire Emblem Awakening, where you have the you player character and you can marry whoever you want and pair up whoever you want. And they Awakening emphasized relationship building in Fire Emblem games more than in the past, but Fates took it way too far, where they like everyone on both kingdoms loves the player character Corrin so much that they either want you to join you so much or they can't bear to harm you. It really felt like every single character in the game was trying to jump into your pants, and in not a fun way at all, in a gross, confusing way. And the king of NieR, or the emperor of NieR, who's your adopted father in the conquering country, is obviously trying to murder you and thinks you're a scourge to his plans. But his 5 children, who are your adoptive siblings, are like, no, Corrin's one of us, and it's I can't. The tonal dissonance is so wild in this game, and feels so gross in this game, and just the way they tried to sell the game to you feels wrong, that I just could not enjoy Fire Emblem Fates after getting pretty far in the Conquest path and playing the very beginning of the Birthright path. So I would recommend someone that's interested in strategy RPGs play almost any Fire Emblem game other than this one. and I just went into an overlong explanation on Fire Emblem Fates, but the weird, sad part of this is that the cartridge that I bought, the limited edition that has all 3 paths on one cartridge, is now maybe the rarest video game I own. I think those go for like $300 on eBay or something nowadays. So Yeah, a game I probably won't ever want to sell because of my collector instinct, but also don't ever want to play because I find the game almost just unpleasant to think about.
I also like that they did the bad parents. That all of the people in the army were bad parents and just dumped their kids off in different time-altering dimensions.
Yeah, they try to bring back the future children thing in Fates, but instead of, there's an apocalypse going on in 20 years or however long, and your child comes back in time to try and save the world, they dump, like, there's like a weird hyperbolic time chamber or something, and imagine your kid magically walks through a time portal and joins you after two characters hook up. It's
What is
Honestly, it
happening?
sounds really effed up.
everything about it is effed up, and and even when I was playing Fire Emblem Warriors a couple of months ago for this podcast, like there were so many Fire Emblem Fates characters in it that it made me like the game less.
Oh no.
I can see
Oh,
that.
no.
Yeah, there's like, it's like, oh man, Ryoma and Camilla, get the hell out of here. Oh no, I didn't ask for this. Was
This
it Ryoma?
was a game that had incest, right?
Well, yes or no.
They conveniently have like some plot reasoning as to why it's not.
Yes.
But,
It's like you're the only dragon child, so you can technically marry any of your siblings in either of the families. Again, it feels like a gross anime explanation.
Okay.
Like most of the stuff in this game feels like a gross anime explanation, and I but again, I don't want to clown on the Fire Emblem series at all. I didn't care for Shadow Dragon or Fates, but I love Awakening. I love all three GBA ones. Path of Radiance is a masterpiece. I liked Fire Emblem Engage last year way more than most people did.
Oh yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, and Gaiden Shadows of Valentia is very, very good. So there are two other 3DS Fire Emblem games that I would totally recommend, but not this one. Don't it's weird and gross, and I just don't want to think about it anymore.
I got nothing to say to that.
I want to try and like go and search for some character names to make sure that I'm remembering certain things correctly, but I don't think I want Fire Emblem Fates like search history on my computer.
Okay, that's so bad.
I got you. Just a sec.
But please let's talk about something else. Anything, Kyle? What you got?
Oh my god, I don't know if I want to go.
Oh, you have to. Because we've been looking at this Google Doc for over a week now. And I would love for you to tell me why you find this particular game hard to love.
Yeah, honestly, this is the reason why I want to talk about this game is because I know how ridiculous it sounds. Like I did a little bit of digging, just because I wanted to make the time. I'm super grateful that this episode is not called Games That Aren't Very Good, because I would not bring this game on. But because it's called Games That Are Hard to Love, and because this is mostly a safe place, I can't get to NieR Automata. Like that's a real thing. And I did some digging. I really wanted to love this game. I still think that it's possible I could one day. Literally every person that I respect or value, especially people that are at the site that I respect and value, have this game in their top 10 list. Like when you were talking about being on the top PS1 RPGs and not having Xenogears in your top 10, without too much foreshadowing, like that's about to be me in a few weeks. Just a little bit of background, like at RPG Fan, NieR Automata and its Game of the Year edition appear on its podcast 14 times.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, we had 2 episodes for sure on Retro Encounter, and it probably came up on other episodes. But the music, what's his name? Is it Okabe? I feel awful for forgetting. Yeah, but the soundtrack for NieR Automata is definitely a Rhythm Encounter favorite.
So 13 of those appearances have happened in the last 4 years, which basically means that every 4 months, one of our podcasts is talking NieR Automata. It's been on Retro 6 times, Random 2 times. Oh, sorry, 1 time. and then rhythm 7 different times.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sure.
It has 5 game reviews, with a range from the lowest being 90 to the highest being 97 for an average of 93.4. And 15 times there's been a music review on it. Shout out to Patrick, who's done all of them.
Well, it's +1 again in retro now.
Right, and so it's like it's been on feature articles like top fishing mini games, and Alex broke down like its narrative design. And the reason why I did all this digging is because I'm just trying to capture like exactly how ridiculous this sounds, that I started playing this game and couldn't figure out what the big deal was. It's just such a hard. I know it's a hard game for me to love, and it's a completely me problem, right? Like it's for sure everything's subjective, and you know, no one needs to come and find me on Twitter or social media and tell me how wrong I am. Like I completely understand. I think the major issue is that like action RPGs are sort of a coin flip for me, and so that was a part of it at the very beginning where I didn't know all the buttons. There was like you're supposed to hold this one thing so your little robot shoots, but also there's this floating sword on this blind person's back, and like the whole Android clone technology thing has never been something that I've sought out. And so now all of a sudden, right at the very beginning, my personal vibe is all thrown off. Like it's really popular. The music is legitimately good. Like I actually listened to a little bit of it because I wanted to make sure that I've spent maybe 10 hours with this game. So I think it's legitimately reasonable to say I haven't even given it a fair shot. But I just remember like the most recent time I tried it was just last year. And it's because it was on this huge sale. Awesome. This game is supposed to be the best ever. And then, you know, you get like, I don't even know how far into the game it is. It's actually not even 10 hours. It's a couple of hours in. But there's like this Sephiroth looking dude who's stark naked and this huge boss fight. And he jumps all around and you're supposed to fight him.
Oh, is that the earliest appearance of Adam? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could be. Yeah. I don't even know who it is. But
I played this game. It was only 3 or 4 years ago, but I don't remember every moment of it perfectly.
It's this human type creature with long white hair. It looks like if Sephiroth was naked.
Sure.
And you win this fight. There's like this huge dramatic stabbing of this enemy with your characters from like 2 different directions. It's pretty gory. It kind of dies. Your your lead girl, I think her name is 2B. Is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So she says something cool like, "Is this thing even really human?" And then the entire thing starts to collapse. Oh, and then it respawns to life on top of itself and picks itself up. This creature that you just stabbed. And that's when I just kind of dropped the controller. I was like, what is happening? Like, everyone's a robot, but not a robot. Everything is dark. I just killed this thing. It respawned. I can't handle this. And I never went back to it. I got distracted by, I think I started playing Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon. And that's
another PS4 game that I love that we might talk about on a feature or a podcast in the next few weeks.
Which I can get behind on in that one. But like this, and again, I just want to reiterate, I understand that it's a me problem. But if anybody out there is listening and has been like, you know what, everybody loves this game and I don't get it, I'm here to say that I hear you.
Now, I will say that I probably don't get NieR Automata as completely as I could, but I still love the game. I mean, it's the action is very, very fun and fast once you get used to it. It switches genres so weirdly, like between the shooter segments and the hacking segments and the actiony combat, in ways that I always at least found interesting, even if I sometimes found it frustrating. I mean, we recorded 2 episodes about this. I think it was 2021, but I'd have to go back and check. I really do think NieR Automata is one of the best action RPGs ever made. It goes with some sort of predictable normal sci-fi and some very interesting high concept sci-fi that mostly boils down to how human can an android or a robot really be, but then going taking steps way beyond those kinds of ideas. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the end game of NieR Automata, which is very unique and special, but I don't even think I started to really get Automata until I had already rolled credits twice.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like my brother has played the game. I think he played it a long time ago, but there's supposed to be multiple endings or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of. Like after you beat the game, every time you beat the game, the next playthrough is different. I don't want to go too deep into spoilers, but generally, like beating the game is seeing endings A, B, C, D, and E. Generally, that's what beating the game means.
Yeah, completing whatever full thing is happening. Yeah, no, I hear you. Everything you're saying is something I've read or someone has said, and I've nodded along and been like, yeah, that's really cool. I got nothing.
Yeah, I understand why it didn't click with you, Kyle, because even when I first played this game, and even if it's like my very top JRPG, even up to this day, the first my first few hours of playing this game, I was also completely confused, and it took a while before it actually hooked me, and I see the reasons why some people um just didn't vibe with it, and it's one of those games that I think that you have to really stick through until the end, and also even have to see most of the endings of the game to completely understand what's going on. But even then, even actually also doing all the endings, I had to search forums and like all everyone discussing about it and try to understand everything that's happening in the game as well. But I think that was exactly why I really like the game, and I like, for me, that was exactly the beauty of the game. So it's I I don't know what to say, but Yokotaro is just, it's just not normal. So
I'm assuming it doesn't get less dark.
No,
it
I
gets
think that
darker.
there's more darkness and more
Yeah.
suffering up until the fifth time the credits roll.
Yeah.
See, I can't, like, what? I actually have a legitimate question. I'm not trying to troll because I feel like I could troll somebody if I'm asking this.
Hmm.
But I'm legitimately interested, especially from a lot of you. Like Tin, you said it's like kind of at your top. I-
Hmm.
Is it fair for a game to be considered that great if you have to experience that much of it in order to finally get? Oh, okay.
That much.
I think you're not really understanding how the endings work. You aren't playing the game 5 times.
Yeah.
Like every time the credits roll, the next cycle is very different and contributes to the greater understanding of the game. Like it's I mean I don't think you need to play through every single ending to understand or well I don't want to sound like I'm belittling you, Kyle, but
No, no, that's okay.
I don't I didn't start. I mean, I started enjoying Nier Automata from a very early point. Like I didn't need to see 3 endings before I started liking the game.
Right.
I think the game is exciting moment to moment and interesting, but then the deeper you get, the more fascinating it becomes because it really does have a lot of fascinating story concepts and emotional places that it goes. But I think the game starts good and gets better, but if you don't connect
Hmm.
with action gameplay, or if you find the confusing parts frustrating and not intriguing, then I understand not being able to get into it.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not trying to. I just think that I was wondering about that question, like how we would respond to that, because I wouldn't be the person. I wouldn't be a good person to try to respond to that question. But
Yeah,
no,
actually, yeah, I think it would also depend, I guess. Um, because in my case, it's like what I felt is like after I've gotten the first ending, I wanted to know more. It's something what Sollosi said earlier, that for me it got a lot more intriguing, that I want to digest everything, and I want to make sure that I didn't miss out something. So
Yeah, that's important. Like if you're that hooked after sort of your
Yeah,
first
yeah,
quote
yeah.
unquote credit roll, yeah, that's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's how it turned out for me, and I do understand as well why people had to drop it usually early on or early parts of the game. That's most often like the people I've recommended this game with, and they just didn't finish this. It's usually just the first few uh half or probably a one third of the game. That's when they usually drop it. So yeah, I
Do
think
we
that's
like
also the make or break of the game, if you're really gonna get into this or not.
how long would you say roughly each quote unquote playthrough is?
Oh, I played this multiple times that I don't I don't even know how long
I think this is a struggle. I don't really remember
Like, are we
everything
talking
about it.
20
Like
hours to get first credits and then a variance?
like maybe 15 to get the first credits, and then another 10 to 15 for the second credits, and then the last
Mhm.
3 credits are smaller than the first or the second.
But presumably, if you get the first one, then you're in. Like, it wouldn't be the first time that someone, especially like an RPG fan, beat a game and then restarted the same game just because, go back to the beginning and see what's, and then, but not, it's,
I
I'm
don't
understanding it's not the beginning. It's like a next part.
Yes, I do not want to communicate that that each ending is a new replay. That is
Yeah,
not
it's
true.
not.
It- like the credits rolling and then the game starting again is just another point in the plot.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. But I think it, like, I personally, even as someone who has struggled to love this game, I think it is legitimately interesting because I'm also someone who, like, with the first time I beat the Trails of Cold Steel, like, I just restarted to play the first few hours because I forgot kind of what happened. But it is kind of cool that you get the credits and then, like many of us might do, you start the next cycle, but it's a completely different, or it's like it's new.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep explaining this any further
Yeah,
because
no
then
worries, no worries.
we're gonna go, that's going into spoiler
Yeah,
territory.
for
But
sure.
I think we can say for certain that Tin and I really enjoyed Nier Automata. You were struggling to connect with it, but and it plays with story structure in some sometimes confusing ways.
Mhm.
But Audra, you've been a little quiet. Have you played Nier Automata?
I have not yet. I need to.
Oh, it's real good. I mean, don't listen to the fourth member of this podcast. Like just pay attention to everything Tin and I are saying. All right,
All right. I can give it a try.
it's worth it. I didn't play the first Nier until after an Automata, and I find Nier one a little bit more confusing and frustrating than Automata personally. Although I thought it was very good. Um, those are both two interesting games, and I hope Yoko Taro has a good therapist.
Yeah. I hope so too.
But I mean, maybe this episode is a little bit therapeutic for us because we're opening our hearts about some internal struggles. Tin, uh, your next game is a little bit like Xenogears in that it's unfinished in many ways,
Yes.
and a little bit like Fire Emblem Fates in that it comes in 2 versions, and then
Yeah.
there's a third story that continues. But unlike Fire Emblem Fates and Xenogears, this is a game that I mostly enjoyed. Let's go on with your last game.
All right. I was also pretty worried that if I bring this up, maybe they'd probably think why I didn't like this game. But I also do know that a lot of people also had problems with this game, and it's pretty understandable why as well. Well, because my game is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the latest Pokemon in the mainline series, and I was also really looking forward to this when it was first announced. And I actually forgot, like, when they first teased about this game, was the latest game was already out before this one. I'm not sure again if like what year did Arceus came out,
Oh
and
yeah,
even
no,
BDSP.
No, I do remember this. It was almost exactly a year. Like BDSP was November of 2021, then Arceus
Mm-hmm.
was like January of 2022,
Yep.
Oh,
and then Scarlet and Violet was like November of 2022. So there over a 12-month period, all of those
okay.
did come
So,
out. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep, you got
I
it.
guess it's understandable how this game turned out as well. Um, yeah, one of my biggest really like pet peeves when it comes to games is I really hate unfinished games or buggy games in general. Usually, as much as I want to experience those kind of games, I try to wait around and like wait for bug fixes or patch fixes and how they're gonna fix things up after a while. But yeah, for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, this was the one that I just really couldn't get back into it anymore. Like even after um, a year during release, and probably my biggest problem with this game is apart from it being buggy and the visuals being really ridiculous at times. I also didn't like how they tried to approach the open world thing, but then it also felt barren to me, just like how I said earlier with Elysium. But yeah, that's not really an open world kind of game. But I also didn't like how most of the explorations, like comparing to past Pokemon games, like whenever you'd reach a city, you'd want to check almost every corner and every part of the area is like really fun to go around.
Yeah, but in this game you can't go into any single building
Yeah,
except for the academy. Yeah.
exactly. Like all of the buildings are just displays and you just uh, um go near to each building and they're just nothing. And the fact that uh when you also go into this academy, I also don't like how there's so much quizzes.
Yeah, they really do capture the monotony of going to school for real.
Yeah,
It's like if Persona 4, 3 and 4 make going to school seem kind of fun,
fun. Yeah,
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet makes going to school feel kind of like school.
yeah, and they dump all of this at the same time, like where you're gonna pick which subjects to take, and it's really like attending school where you have to pick your subjects and all that, and you
Shout
have
out
to
David
pack.
Vink, who was really thrown off by one of those quizzes.
Which one?
I,
Sorry.
I remember
I for,
when I was pretty late into the game and I was looking how to find the treasures of ruin, which are four of the legendary Pokemon. I had to go back to this academy and take like four history lectures before I was allowed to go find these mysterious Pokemon from a teacher that was weirdly attractive. Like everyone's just a little too good looking in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But Tin, I'm almost I don't want to say my feelings are the opposite of yours because what you're saying is absolutely true. This is an extremely buggy game. Sometimes the draw
Mhm.
distance is like 5 feet in front of you and things will
Yeah.
just teleport in and out. And some of the towns feel like I don't know, feel like a Hollywood set where it's not actual buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like cardboard cutouts that you
Yeah.
can only see one side of. It feels very weirdly empty, but parts
Hmm.
of Scarlet and Violet I genuinely love. Like I think the character designs are really fun. I think Larry is my favorite gym leader of all time, maybe now. But um, and the open world design is real weird, especially if you go off a critical path that they sort of want you to go on. But then,
Hmm.
but I also thought the three parallel stories of the League and the Titans and Team Star, like you could do those in any order, and then they sort of unified at the end. I thought that was at least interesting.
Hmm.
But this game is unforgivably busted.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, Pokemon is by some measurements the most popular IP in the entire world. Like Pokemon makes more money than Harry Potter or Star Wars or Marvel. A lot of that is merchandising and not just the video games or movies. But but the fact that this is one of the biggest video games in history, period, for this product to be this busted is a little embarrassing. And I mean, there's something to say, like, older fans that have been playing Pokemon for 25 years or longer, like I have, maybe you're frustrated by how these games are still dumbed down, or and still feature incomplete. What's like, well, this has to be someone's first Pokemon game also. So like, I think it's unfair to demand that this is a game for 20-year veterans, but I think it
Mm-hmm.
is not demanding that this game should play a little better, because it is weird and bad sometimes. But I also really genuinely liked Scarlet because of the things it did well. But I'm not trying to argue with a single thing you're saying, Tin, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that Scarlet Violet do poorly, and a lot of Pokemon fans, even on RPG fan staff, found it really disappointing. Even though I thought I sort of liked it more than most people did.
The thing is, I actually like the new Pokemons and even the starters for this one. Like, I even managed to do the third evolution for my cat grass.
Oh yeah, and I had a fighting duck Quakewaval named Huge McDuck is what I named him.
So
Sorry, can we get that? Can we get that again?
My duck Pokemon starter is named Huge McDuck.
yeah, I
I
find them really cute as well and charming.
Thank you.
And uh, what else could I say about this game? To be fair though, I didn't also finish it, even if I did get a bit far ahead. And honestly, if Game Freak would come out or will release a new game, I would probably still buy it because it's Pokemon. That's the sad truth about this franchise, is that even though like it gets like it's being it's getting released, like it's degenerating for like what the other people say, and the fact that it's getting frustrating every release and release compared to how it was back then. um People still buy it because it's Pokemon, you know. So yeah. Oh, Audra, did you play Scarlet and Violet?
I have not yet. I need to. I haven't
Yeah.
really played too many Pokemon games, so.
I mean, oh boy, would I recommend this as someone's first Pokemon game? Probably
Yeah, but
no. Probably no. Is that where I would land?
Ah,
Like it's. I mean, it's the most modern one, so it'll have the most current support. But
Mhm.
this is a weird one. I almost think that you should start with a more basic one, like
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the Omega Alpha remakes, or one of the
Honestly,
DS ones or
Sword and
something.
Shield, like Sword and Shield, would be a decent. I essentially restarted with those ones.
I like Scarlet and Violet more than Sword and Shield, but I also just thought Sword and Shield were boring character wise.
Oh, fair enough. I just meant as a starting spot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can basically start with any Pokemon game. If you want to start with one that's actually good, I mean, we did mention Legends Arceus not long ago. That game is really interesting.
Yeah, I actually
Yeah, that one sounds pretty
prefer
neat.
that over my experience with Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah,
So.
I remember we did an episode about this around a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, that about the future of Pokemon,
Mhm.
because I really thought that Scarlet and Violet were so flawed, and Arceus is more fun, but also is sort of incomplete. It doesn't have some modern Pokemon amenities that
Yeah.
that a main one has. Like there's no Pokemon abilities or held items, for example. Like, but
Mhm.
if a future Pokemon game takes the good things from Arceus and Scarlet Violet, that could be closer to the platonic ideal that we want out of a Pokemon game. But we're not.
Please.
But we're not there yet, because Scarlet and Violet are pretty busted. But I am very, very interested in playing ZA next year.
Oh right, yeah. That one I'm also like, even after getting disappointed from this game, I'm still looking forward to the next Pokemon. So.
Yeah,
I
but
was just about to ask when the next one was coming. That's the what is it? What's
That's,
Probably
the
gonna
name for
be
it?
a launch title, maybe.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. I mean,
Yeah.
we're recording this at the end of May, but we know that a Switch follow up is happening. We don't know exactly when it's coming out, but because Pokemon Legends ZA is like second quarter 2025, that might be right when it comes out. When the Switch successor comes out.
We'll see how it
Whether
goes.
it's the Switch 2 or the Super Switch or the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Switch
Sonic.
the Supersonic Switch. That's not bad. Maybe they could bring back the Seattle Supersonics at the same time the Switch comes out.
Oh, big shouts. Big shouts.
The NBA is going to expand to 32 teams before 2027, and you can bet $1,000 on that.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. If we're talking about my favorite '90s NBA team, other than the Jordan Bulls, we're definitely off track here. Audra, there's one more game that we want to talk about that's on our list here, and I said this before, but I think this is a similar situation for Lunar with you, in that this is a series that you love that had a disappointing late game.
Yes, this one is Wild Arms 5, the 5th main installment of the Wild Arms series, and not the last of it, because they did Wild Arms Crossfire XF afterwards, which I
is that the PSP one?
Yeah, the strategy RPG,
right?
Which I actually genuinely like better than Wild Arms 5. But
I heard the PSP one was kind of rough.
It's the first 2 parts are pretty good, and then the last third is kind of
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I should stop talking. I've only played the first 3 Wild Arms games, and I only finished one of them. So please enlighten me about Wild Arms 5 and why you find it hard to love.
Well, Wild Arms 5 is, for starters, it's set up as an anniversary title for the series, and it kind of essentially kills it, which is unfortunate. The story is just not. It's basically they took a bunch of anime and JRPG stereotypes and put them all in a blender, and not all of them stick very well. There's a lot of get over the wall or break the wall terminology. The main character fights with the shovel for parts of it, and it's just anyone who's over 20 is old. And the story's just not very memorable. The one character I actually liked gets stuck in a time loop, and then she has to repeat the whole story over and over and over again, which I just thought was very torturous.
That's a tough scene.
Yeah. And I mean, it uses the hex battle system, which is actually a really interesting, more strategy-oriented turn-based battle system that they used in Wild Arms 4. And I really liked it in Wild Arms 4, and I do like it in 5, but I don't know, it felt slightly watered down comparatively with how they implemented it in this one. And they took away some of the, Wild Arms 4 actually had some platforming elements in their dungeons and stuff, which I found really fun. And they kind of just get rid of that for 5, so it just felt like kind of an incomplete game in some respects, or at least rushed. And yeah, just overall, it just was not, to me, it wouldn't have been what I'd consider an anniversary love letter project.
But Armed Fantasia now. Speaking of 2025 games, now admittedly I haven't played Wild Arms 5 or 4 or XF or Alter Code F. But the first 3 Wild Arms games are unique in their own way, and I think they're really the only games that very obviously blend ancient civilizations plus an old west aesthetic plus a lot of sort of anime designs. It really feels like what if Trigun was an RPG that also had swords and dragons in it.
Yes.
And a lot of people really value those PS1 and PS2 Wild Arms games because they were unique and mostly well executed. But if this 5th one does not really capture what would the strengths of the first several and feels unfinished or rushed, and we know that Sony studio that made them isn't really around anymore. I mean, that's got to be hard. I don't have a huge attachment to Wild Arms. I didn't even play them until the series was probably already over. But I mean, just to end this on an optimistic note, Armed Fantasia, which
Yes.
we know that's coming, and Aeoden Chronicle turned out all right. So maybe this is another series that can have a sort of a spiritual successor that satisfies the fans. I mean, I don't mean to change the subject, but do you think Armed Fantasia is something you're interested in?
Oh, definitely. I've been keeping a close eye on it. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know when they're coming out. I hope they both come out in 2025. But I think there's a lot of justified excitement for Armed Fantasia and Penny Blood because,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a cliche. It's like, well, Bloodstained and Aeoden were real successes. So what other 2000s series that have fallen by the wayside can get revived? How about Wild Arms and Shadow Hearts? But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry about Wild Arms 5. This is the game on this list that I'm probably the least familiar with. Because I've played 6 of them and know and did some research on Valkyrie Elysium before we recorded. But yeah, I mean, again, trying to spin this positively, maybe Armed Fantasia will be good.
Yes.
Yeah, fingers crossed
so.
it wouldn't turn out like the comeback that happened with Elysium.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of what this episode is about. We always want to like the games we're looking forward to. We like, as RPG fans, we develop loyalties and affections for different series or different developers or different auteurs like a Yoko Taro or a or a Takahashi. I forget the Xenogears guy's name already. I can't remember. I can't remember names anymore. Even though
Nope, you got it, Takahashi.
even though I was talking about it an hour and 10 minutes ago. But like we develop these loyalties and affections, and we get hyped about the next game from that place or from that person. So when something we really are looking forward to and want to love is disappointing, it feels like it hits harder than just a movie being disappointing, because playing a video game is a time investment and a level of connection that I think is different from a film or a television show. But we at least knew 8 that we could that we found disappointing, and at least a couple like Armed Fantasia, Pokemon Legends ZA, oh boy, future Fire Emblem game TBD. I know that we all have hopes for the next of those, and hopefully we don't need to do a sequel on this episode about the games in 2025 we found super disappointing.
Oh yeah.
But before we move on to housekeeping, was there one that you like considered to bring for this episode, but didn't make one of your official 2 picks? Like, if you want to do one sentence on something else, go for it. Now's your chance.
Oh, probably Hoshigami Ruining Blue Earth.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a strategy RPG that's not. It's not the most memorable strategy RPG out there, but it kind of looks like a Final Fantasy. Like it could be inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff, and it's just not the best.
If we want to talk about disappointing RPGs that remind us of other RPGs, I found Sands of Destruction so disappointing. That's a DS RPG from some of the people that did Chrono Cross and Xenogears. That just wasn't very good. It didn't even have the super good first 40 hours that Xenogears had.
Amen.
And another one on that same timeline. Like I'm a big fan of the Disgaea series, but more accurately, I'm a big fan of the first 4 Disgaea games, because the Disgaea D2 spinoff, I found just like, I don't know, like that was when I fell out of love with Disgaea, which is a sad thing to say out loud. I own copies of Disgaea 5 and 6, but I haven't even played them because I was so disappointed by D2.
5's good.
I've heard good things about every Disgaea game. you have to sort of know what you're getting into. But I just I don't know, I just completely fell off after Dimension 2. That game's just not great. 4 is excellent though. Like I'll recommend Disgaea 4 to anyone that wants to play a strategy RPG.
Yeah, I just started 4 recently, then kind of bounced off because there's a early difficulty spike I wasn't expecting, and then didn't have any resilience. But 5 is really good.
I really like the first 4, but I think my overall favorite is Disgaea 4.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, we still haven't done the Disgaea podcast on RPG Fan, but not for lack of me trying.
Hey, I would do it with you for sure.
I've been sneaking it onto the ideas board for like literally 7 years now, and but no one else wants to do one. But Tin or Kyle, do you have any game that was an almost ran for this episode?
I don't know if I want to share mine.
That's fine. Go for it. This is a safe space, and you're still
Yeah,
hesitating.
no, I hear you. I really am so grateful for that. But like the first one that came to mind is just another one that I feel like is just gonna like put the flames around me.
No, I already know. Tell me which Dragon Quest game it is.
No, actually, it's not. No, I was gonna say Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Like it's one of those things where everybody I respect has really enjoyed it. I did not try Tears of the Kingdom, I'll say that. But I played like probably 20, 25 hours or so of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, that's not nothing.
No, and like I don't know if it's a hot take or not because I don't have a ton of experience with Zelda, but Link is just such an unappealing character. And I couldn't get past that, and then I just kind of fell off it. Like I think there's a ton of awesome things it does, but I couldn't love it.
Actually, you shouldn't be worried about not liking Breath of the Wild, because I think it's one of the those Zelda games that was a bit divisive.
I think a lot of people really like Breath of the Wild, but it is sort of uniquely empty and open in a way that I mean, if you aren't connected with it after 20 hours, I'm not saying I'm not going to try and drag you into it, but
Yeah.
I think the game's very good, but there's it's a lot to deal with. I'm not going to deny that. Tin, do you have a game that you almost picked instead of Elysium or Scarlet?
Actually, it was the first release of Cyberpunk. Also,
boy.
the main reason the main reason is that it was buggy as hell as well.
Oh no!
And-
Were you playing like the PS4 version?
Yes.
Oh
no.
During release, and I lined up in the game store for it.
When this game came out, I think it was like the middle of December of 2019.
Mhm.
I want to say we actually delayed Game of the Year voting for RPG Fan by like 2 weeks because a couple people on staff were like, I really need to play this first to see if it's like my number one game of the year because I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking of 2 people in particular, but like it was oh boy, it was so rough that like we have some regrets about that at the moment.
Yeah, but I didn't bring it up here because when the latest DLC came out and I tried to revisit this game, they fixed up everything. So yeah, that's the reason why I pulled it out from my list.
Yeah, I heard the DLC from last year was really, really excellent. We even talked about it on the year-end episode for 2023 5 months ago. But it's not getting me any closer to playing Cyberpunk, I'm afraid. But but yeah, I can understand the PS4 version of 2019 Cyberpunk
so
2077 being pretty rough.
It broke my game. That I really have bad memories with it. Like I've reached far ahead already, and then I've triggered a game breaking bug that I couldn't even proceed further already. So I was like, you know what, screw this. So it was probably my biggest Christmas disappointment during that year. So
At least you're not on record on this podcast as hating buggy games.
so yeah.
That's true. I mean, we at Retro Encounter we love buggy games that have, you know, that are totally unfinished. That's what we're all about.
that's a niche brand right there.
Oh boy, especially if you have to buy them 3 times to get the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they're the last disappointing entry in an otherwise beloved series. That's what this podcast is all about. But no, actually, no, that's what just this podcast episode was all about. Kyle, Tin, and Audra, thank you so much for jabbing with me about disappointing slash missed connections of RPGs. We had to sort of figure out this episode's tone in the planning stages because I don't think any of us were totally sure how it was going to go until we started. But I think we got at least 8 very good discussions about specific RPGs that are personal disappointments. And maybe we learned a little bit about each other along the way as well. So thank you so much for that, and thank you listeners for putting up with us for this 90 minutes plus about RPGs that maybe you love, maybe you haven't heard of, but we at least found disappointing at some level. But to talk about some games that I didn't think were very disappointing at all. We're doing a part 2 of our Omori episodes next week. I am in the second half of Omori now, and it's getting sort of better and better. Like, that game is much less disappointing than Xenogears. And also, the week after that, we're talking about Aiden Chronicle 100 Heroes, a game that I've already finished and I thought was mostly very, very good, but there will be a lot to talk about for that spoiler cast in 2 weeks. And later this month, we're doing 2 episodes on Grandia 2. Oh, actually, later this month, in the end of June, we're doing 2 episodes on Grandia 2. Grandia 2 won our episode 400 poll that we held in January, and we're finally getting around to those. So please look forward to those coming in June. And is this episode going up on the 1st? Well, guess what? You're getting a sneak preview anyway. The July game for Retro Encounter is going to be Dark Souls. That Dark Souls. For a while, like, something that was challenging or difficult or inaccessible was called the Dark Souls of blank. Well, the Dark Souls of Retro Encounter is going to be the actual Dark Souls. I haven't started it yet, but I am slightly dreading it and very excited for it. But those episodes are coming in July. But if you want to message us about Xenogears or Dark Souls or Pokemon or the tragic passing of one of the co-founders of Game Arts, you can always email us retro@rpgfan.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, always as RPG Fan or RPG Fancom, and we have a Discord channel as well. But maybe the best way to support us, because it puts money directly into our pockets, is the RPG Fan shop. If you go to rpgfan.com/shop, you'll find 2 links to shop websites. One hosted by TeePublic, where you can get RPG Fan merch and apparel, and also a link to Hyperplay RPG, which is a UK-based publisher of our RPG Fan reviews compilation, a 300-page tome full of 1-page reviews. So if you want to support us in any of those ways, you're welcome to. There's also 2 other fine podcasts that you can listen to on the RPG Fan Podcast Network. Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness and what games we're playing, and Rhythm Encounter every other 2 weeks about RPG music. Please listen to Random Encounter, Rhythm Encounter, or Retro Encounter, however you choose. But if you are doing so on a place where you can leave a review, we encourage you to leave reviews or feedback, especially if it's 5 stars out of 5. But if you want to give us a 5-star feedback as humans and not as podcasts, let's tell the listeners how we can be reached. Panel, starting with you, Audra.
Audra B at rpgfan.com.
That was simple enough. Now, Kyle.
Twitter or X, whatever the people are calling it, at Kyle
Twitter.
RPG.
It's Twitter.
I know it. Yeah, you bet it is.
Now, Tin, how can listeners find you?
Tin at rpgfan.com.
And listeners, if you want to find me, I am at Evoker for Dogs on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Discord. And if you want to email me, I suppose you could always email Sollosi at rpgfan.com. So, we originally had a 5th panelist for this episode, and the games that he put on as his hard to love RPGs were Persona 2 and Chrono Trigger. So we never got to talk to him, and I'll leave him anonymous just so listeners don't go mad searching for him. But I'm gonna send some DMs later tonight, let's say. But panelists, listeners, everyone, thank you. Good night and good luck.